Merrimack TV content may no longer be available on YouTube. To continue watching our programs, please download the Merrimack TV app from your device's app store. Programs may also be available at merrimacktv.com.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the new, 2025-2026 School Budget Committee meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great to see so many wonderful faces returning this year, and we've got a few new members, so welcome to our new members as well. The first order of business is approval of prior minutes. We have two sets of minutes, one from February 11th and one from March 4th. The minutes were distributed ahead of time. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review them. Are there any additions or changes to the minutes? Would anyone like to motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it. Who is the second? Shannon? All in favor? Two abstain.
I'm gonna abstain.
3 abstain. 9 approve, 3 abstain. That's 12. Joanne, Jenna, and Heather. Great. All right, our first order of business is committee reorganization. We are going to open the floor for nominations for chair.
I nominate Heather Robitaille for chair.
Do I have to second that? I second that nomination, if it requires one.
Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Jen McCormick.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
And who was the second?
Marie.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to say anything about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I recognize a lot of the faces from attending the Budget Committee meetings, and some of you I had the pleasure of serving on this committee as well. I've been here in Merrimack for over 20 years. I have a daughter who's in 5th grade, almost 6th grade, and I've certainly learned a lot from being on the committee, but also watching. And I think, as the chair, it's really important to facilitate the meetings. It's not about interjecting your own personal opinion or perspective, but to make sure that the committee stays on point with the business at hand within its purview, and that the discussions happen and everyone gets their opportunity to truly be heard. Because I think there were some really good comments about how every person on this committee was elected by different members of this community with differing opinions. So if I were elected as your chair, my goal would be to run efficient meetings that keep us on task while getting the insight and information that we need, making sure we're communicating with the community, and doing that in a way that is timely as well.
Thank you. I would echo some similar sentiments. I think, having been chair this past year, I hope that the committee is pleased with the work that I did as chair, and that I was able to create that environment where every opinion and every piece of input and feedback from committee members was valued. And even though I'm the chair, I don't think I am the committee. And I think that's really what guided me this year, is that, the committee is 13 people. And I wanted to make sure that everybody felt like they were heard, that their opinions were valued, and I would be thrilled to serve again if you should choose me. Shall we have a vote? Would you like us to vote on each individual? It's a roll call.
Right, it's a roll call vote.
Okay. So would you like to go ahead?
Shannon?
I vote Jen.
Jenna?
Heather.
Marie?
Jen.
Joanne? Heather?
I'll vote for myself.
I'm sorry, what? Myself. Thank you. Brian?
Jen.
Ashley?
Heather.
Anthony?
Jen.
Caitlin?
Heather.
Jennifer?
Jennifer?
Chuck?
Mrs. Robitaille.
Dan?
Heather.
That's 7 for Heather and 5 for Jen. That means Heather is elected.
Great. Congratulations. Can we have some nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate you, Jen. I thought you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I would like to nominate Dan.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Then we vote.
Jennifer?
Jennifer?
Heather?
Dan.
Jenna?
I'm going to go with Dan.
Marie? Marie?
Sorry. Jen.
Chuck?
Mayor of Reed's Ferry casts one vote with seasoned experience of Jan Coker.
Brian?
Jen.
Caitlin?
Dan.
Shannon?
Jen.
Anthony,
Jen,
Ashley,
Dan,
Joanne.
Dan.
That's also 7 to 5. Dan.
Congratulations, Dan. All right, so I'll turn it over to the new chair.
Oh, yeah. I kept it warm for sure. Don't worry about it. I'll just go through it.
Such an awkward process.
All right, now we're all settled in. I would definitely like to thank Jen for all the work that she did as chair last year and presenting at the deliberative session and bringing our guests here tonight and setting up the agenda. So thank you, Jen. Thank you for all the work that you did for the committee. All right. Did I bring my folder? Yeah, I did. All right. So next we have our district attorney here to discuss the right to know policy, which is something that I know for those of you who were on the board, the committee previously, you've had some experience with, but it's certainly something that's very important for everyone to know, and we have some new faces, so thank you very much.
is it on? Yes, it is. All right, perfect. So I want to talk briefly about the right to know law in general, and then I wanted to talk specifically about committee member communications, because that's what I was told was the more pressing concern that y'all had for more information on. But I'm happy to answer any questions during the Q&A session. So as an overview, the right to know law, it's more than just a policy. It's actually a requirement of the New Hampshire Constitution. Part 1, Article 8, government should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive. To that end, the public's right of access to governmental proceedings and records shall not be unreasonably restricted. So it's a requirement of the New Hampshire Constitution that voters, taxpayers have a constitutional right to public access. The actual statute, the RSA 91A, that exists to effectuate that constitutional right and lay out the process. And that sets out in its goals and its opening, openness in the conduct of public business is essential to a democratic society. Purpose of the law is to ensure both the greatest possible public access, and that's an important key point, greatest possible, and access to discussions, records of all public bodies, and their accountability to the people. So this isn't just an introduction. This actually plays an important role when you're deciding, is this a public meeting? Do I need to disclose this? The constitutional right and the policy of the law effectuating that constitutional right is to effectuate access to the greatest possible extent. So what that means is whenever there's a dispute, if it goes to a court or anything like that, judge is trying to determine, is this a public meeting that the public has a right to access to? Do they need to disclose this document? They're going to err on the side of, yes, this should be disclosed and open to the public. So good rule of thumb, if there's any doubt, you can thumb on the scale. You should probably be open to the public if there's doubt, and it should probably be disclosed if there's doubt. It also means that there's a presumption in favor of disclosure, and that presumption means, in a legal sense, that if you have a document and you decide to withhold it in response to the public requesting it, the burden is on y'all to demonstrate that, yes, this document falls under one of the exceptions. It's not on them to demonstrate that they need that document. And they don't need to have any reason whatsoever other than curiosity. Under the law, you can ask them why they want it. They don't have to answer, and you can't make any decision to withhold it or change how you respond to them based off of how they answer. You can ask it, but they can request it for any reason whatsoever. It's their constitutional right. So, when you're in a bind, and sometimes there's a law that lays it out, looks fairly clear, but in real life, these situations, there's a lot of gray areas. Ask yourself some questions. One, am I unreasonably restricting access to records or proceedings, right? You don't want to get caught up on technicalities that may seem favorable to you, right? The goal is maximum access. Same thing below. Does my position preserve the fundamental presumption of openness, accessibility, accountability, and responsiveness? And will any position that you take further the public policy of favoring the greatest possible public access, right? Is what you're doing giving them that full amount of access that you can provide? And the New Hampshire Supreme Court in the Green v. School Administrative Unit 55, they have actually said that we're going to construe any ambiguities, any gray areas in favor of disclosure, right? So if there's any uncertainty, if it's not clear cut that you don't need to disclose, they're going to err on the side of disclosure. So whenever y'all meeting, talking to each other, discussing, one of three things are happening. One, you're in a meeting, which is open and public, and that's a requirement under the Constitution and the Right to Know statute. You can have a non-public session, which is part of a public meeting, and during that time, you can close off for certain issues that are enumerated in the Right to Know statute and have a non-public session. And you can have non-meetings. That's when y'all are talking, meeting amongst each other informally in ways that don't constitute the definition of a meeting or a non-public session under the Right to Know statute. Meetings, non-public sessions, they require meeting minutes. Non-meetings, those don't require meeting minutes. You don't have to take the formal documentation, and there's not the requirement that it be open to the public. So what is a meeting? A public meeting, two things have to happen. One, there has to be a quorum of the body, and that can either be in person or it can be some people in person, some people communicating electronically. The thing you want to think about with the electronic communications is, are they communicating contemporaneously? Are y'all able to real-time communicate with each other? That becomes a meeting. The other thing is the purpose of the meeting is to act upon a matter over which y'all have control or supervision, right? If y'all are meeting socially, obviously that's not a meeting. But if y'all are meeting as the board, then that's a public meeting. Now, a few things to keep in mind. Remember, we're erring on the side of disclosure. These technicalities that I mentioned, you can't use these to get around providing access when access is due. You can't circumvent the spirit of the law. So, for example, things that might circumvent the spirit of law, one of the exceptions is attorney-client communications. If y'all send me an email saying, I don't understand something about the right to know law, I have a question, that's protected. You don't need to disclose that. But if you CC me on every single email that y'all discuss as a board, you can't say like, well, Attorney Gray, he's on all these emails, right? You can't, one thing is anything mentioning a specific student in the district, that's exempt, right? But you can't add that student to your email signature, right? You can't come up with loopholes or technicalities, because if they see that, you're getting around the spirit of the law. Another thing, convene doesn't mean physically present. Like I mentioned, it can include electronic communication. If y'all meet outside in the parking lot, have a huddle, that's still a public meeting, right? It has to be open to the public, all the same requirements, even though you're not just sitting right up here. And another thing, remember the requirement for electronic communication is contemporaneously. So if you send an email, right, that's not contemporaneously. If you are, and remember, it has to be a requirement for a quorum of the body. If two of y'all meeting, that's not a quorum, right? So email, not contemporaneously. Couple of y'all, not a quorum, not a public meeting. But if y'all come up with some sort of scheme where you may email her, she emails him, so and so and so and so on, and all together, y'all have all communicated, even though no one is communicating with each other at the same time, all in the same place. You effectuate the same thing. You can't with some sort of loophole. It's not going to fly. So just don't try to be tricky, right? Think about the spirit of the law. Think about what the drafters of the Constitution and the people who wrote the law were actually trying to do, not what you can read between the lines and try to figure out. And there's a few things that are just excluded under the statute. So like I mentioned, if you ask anything attorney-client, right? If you ask me a question, that's going to be excluded. Y'all are nonpartisan elected, correct? All right. Well, this doesn't apply to y'all, but also a caucus of a political party that's exempt. So if y'all were held partisan offices, member of the Democratic members of the board meeting for a party meeting, that doesn't count as a public meeting because that's a political party activity. But same thing, you can't come up with use that as a loophole to get around the public meeting. Another thing which comes up more frequently, which might be more relevant for y'all, is draft documents. So if y'all come up with a decision at a meeting and then you're just circulating your draft documents to finalize that, those emails just circulating the draft documents, finalizing that, as long as you're not making any new decisions or changes, that's not a public meeting. You're just doing the paperwork, basically. So, a few things to think of. One, has a quorum been convened? Yes. If you're able to communicate contemporaneously, you go straight to this is a meeting. You got to follow the requirements of 91A. There's no quorum, but if there are sequential communications, like I mentioned, you email him, put together creates a quorum, then that's going to count. If you have a quorum, but you're discussing things that aren't within the body's control or jurisdiction, it's not going to count as a meeting. But if you are, then that's an unlawful communication outside of a meeting. And it's unlawful because if you're communicating, having these official discussions outside of a meeting, there's no official record of it that the public can access later to see what was going on. They can't have notice of when to show up or anything like that. So, a few other things to keep in mind. Don't get too hung up on the meeting aspect. The right to know law is that when you request, you provide the public records, the governmental documents. So just because a record that the board may have wasn't discussed or received at an official public meeting, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's exempt from right to know, right? So the public meeting aspect, that's for things like meeting minutes, providing notice, providing public access in that sense. But if a request just comes in, someone who didn't show up to a meeting just requesting a document, the requirement is a document that was received by the board as a board, right? So think something that was received by at least a quorum of the members is going to be your rule of thumb. So an example, superintendent sends a document via email to all of y'all. It's probably not going to count as a meeting, right? There's no contemporaneous communication. There's no discussion or decisions of official matters other than sending the agenda. There's no decision being made. But that's still a public record that the board, as a board, has received. You have it in your possession. So as long as it's not protected by any privilege or exception, if a request comes in, you're going to want to provide that. Now, what types of board member responses might make in a meeting? Let's say this request comes in. Y'all start responding to it. You say, oh, the item's on the agenda. Y'all start chit-chatting about things that are on the agenda. That might turn that into a meeting, which is unlawful communication because the public doesn't have notice. They don't get to see what's going on. The other thing about electronic remote meetings, there actually is a requirement under the statute that y'all meet in person to the extent possible. That was waived a lot during COVID and things like that. But the actual legal requirement is when it's reasonably practical, y'all are going to meet in person, right? So remember, the goal is maximum participation of the public, maximum access. Some people, maybe they're not tech savvy, maybe they just prefer coming in person, or maybe meeting minutes just don't cover all the nuances of what's going on. You're going to want to meet in person, have all your members present in person as much as possible. Doesn't look like that's an issue here, but something to keep in mind. If it's not reasonably practical for someone to attend, you got to note that so that the public is aware of what's going on. In an emergency, y'all can meet remotely, right? COVID, that was an emergency, so that was an example of when that happened. But it's just not something that can happen out of convenience. It has to be an emergency. Another thing to keep in mind, there's a duty to keep and maintain your public records, right? So one of the things I was thinking about when creating this in terms of communication outside of the meetings, one of the big issues is not just the right to know law in terms of public access. The issue is whether or not that's actually being preserved, right? So if you're messaging someone on Facebook Messenger, that archive might go away if that person deletes their Facebook account or something, right? Text message, my phone, for instance, I have my settings set to automatically delete old text messages just so it doesn't take up a ton of storage on my phone. Might be the same for y'all, right? You might lose those records. Emails, maybe you lose your password or something. You got to make sure that you have any communication that's official archived. So one rule of thumb, if y'all are communicating with each other outside of a meeting context, even if you think this probably doesn't count as a public record, this probably doesn't count as a public meeting, this, one-way communication between two board members, something like that, I would just, as a rule of thumb, make sure that you're archiving that. Make sure you have some sort of backup of that. So in case a request comes in, turns out you're wrong, that is something you need to produce, you have that backup. It's not just lost forever, right? Rule of thumb, treat anything electronic with the same respect that you'd have if it was a physical document, right? You want to keep that safe, you want to make sure it doesn't just go away. Anything electronic, you're going to treat it the same way. Remember, just err on the side of caution. Even if you never have to disclose it, or even if the request comes in, we take a look and we say, yeah, you're good, you don't have to disclose that. Just make sure you have that backup so that you can produce it if you need to. You have a duty to preserve in an accessible manner, right? So when you produce these documents, you're going to have to produce them in something that the public can actually access, right? If you put it on a floppy disk and give it to them, they're probably not going to be able to read that, right? Basic rule of thumb with that is keep it in the original format that's in, right? If you take a screenshot of a text, it's going to be a JPEG file or something, anyone can open that, right? You don't need to do any kind of crazy conversions or do anything unique. Just keep things the way they are if it's practical. Maybe if you have an old record that was stored on CD or something that you have to convert to being on a USB or something, that's fine. But try to keep things in a way that's easiest for the public to actually access. And the requirement under the RSA 91A is also that you have any kind of document storage retention policy is going to be the same whether it's paper or electronic. So I don't know what your policy is. If it's after 10 years we're going to, say we're going to delete this. Whatever that policy is, it's going to be the same whether it's electronic or it's physical. Now, if you have an electronic record, your requirement is to make reasonable efforts to provide that. And there's no requirement under RSA 91A that you create something that didn't exist before, right? So if someone says, I want an Excel spreadsheet of every time y'all were emailing each other from this date to that date, chances are y'all don't have that document. That's not something you would have thought to create. You don't have to create anything new. You can say that document doesn't exist. Now, if they request those emails, that's a different story, but you don't have to create anything new. Another thing is if, a lot of times if a document is destroyed, you can find some tech wizard who can go to great lengths to resurrect that file and bring it back to life. You're going to take reasonable efforts. You don't have to go to the ends of the earth, find some genius IT guy. Whatever basic IT resources you'll already have. Use your same reasonable resources that you'd use if you were trying to restore something for your own use, right? Whatever resources you have, take reasonable efforts. Now, the RSA 91 statute actually specifically specifies this. Just because you put a file in a trash can on your computer, that doesn't mean it's gone, right? Because those documents, even though they're deleted, they're actually very easy to get them back, right? It doesn't take an IT wizard. It takes a basic IT guy, go in there and find a hidden file, get them back. So just because it's in a trash can, you can't say like, oh, I right-clicked delete, it's gone forever. Because if you right-click delete, chances are you can get it back pretty easily. Any questions? Yes.
I just wanted to know if the slides that you've presented here would be provided to us in paper copy?
I don't have paper copies with
maybe-
me, but I can email them after this.
You could email them to us? That would be awesome. Thank you.
You know, actually, I was going to wait till the end just so y'all don't get distracted, but I have, not of these slides, but I have paper copies of material on the right to know law in general that I can hand out after this. And they go into a little more detail in the slides, actually.
I just saw a lot of things on. I saw a lot of things on the slides that I thought I'd like to be able to refer back to.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I can
So-
provide this, and then I can email
Email them. That
the
would be
slides to the
awesome.
board afterwards.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, a quorum is what, 7 people? So, let's say there's a group text with 5 people on it or 6 people on it, and they're discussing things. That's not a quorum, but does it violate the spirit of the law? Like, if they're discussing board member things?
It's hard to say without seeing the exact text.
Yeah.
But if it's the sort of thing that would have been discussed at a board meeting, then I would, like, if it's being used as a substitute for board meeting discussion, then I would say it violates the spirit of the law, if that makes sense.
Okay. Good to know.
My understanding is the spirit of the law precludes any members discussing something that would be voted on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, if there's any substantive, discussion, you can talk about like what's going to be on the agenda, things like that. But if you're going to have any sort of debate or clarification, you want to hold that for the meeting because the public wants to see that debate and the clarification.
So could I ask a clarifying question about that?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I've actually gotten really kind of like conflicting guidance from different people, but I
Okay.
guess you're the lawman, so like, I've also been told, I think even Matt Chevenel said that, like if we want to get together as individuals, literally to like learn, dive into a space, like there are experts here on certain like specific aspects of the school, that it's totally legit for us to get together and work together to like understand something, explore the space, ask questions. So is it or is it not legit to do
I
that?
wouldn't say like it's forbidden for you to like research and discuss those issues outside of it. I would say don't use it as a substitute for the board discussion.
Yeah.
If there's any kind of information that's relevant to the discussion, if you discuss it amongst yourselves outside, make sure that's shared again for everyone to hear at the board meeting.
Yeah, I think if I could, like, I almost feel like my understanding of the spirit of the law is that, the fact of like adjudicating or like consensus building or trying to come to any kind of decisions, that's the stuff of meetings.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And I would just say, like, if there's anything that influenced the board vote, make sure that's, even if you're saying it again twice, like if people here have already heard it, say it again just so people know where you stand, what the board considered when they made their decision. That make sense? I think there's a
Yeah, I was just wondering, does the district have guidance on committee members on their electronic devices like laptops and cell phones during meetings?
whether you can use it during the meeting?
Just wasn't sure. I know in some committees, they say don't be on them because anything that you're texting could be subject to right to know because you're doing it publicly during a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But that seems to be something accepted here. So I just wasn't sure what the district's guidance, if you had any guidance on that.
I'll have to think about I'll send an email to the board after that. I'll have to think about that.
Wouldn't that be similar to, like I'm sitting here taking notes on your presentation? and
Yeah,
making
so I
notes
would
to
say it
myself.
depends on the subject matter of the text messages. If, if it's a social text message that has nothing to do with the board discussion, I wouldn't view that as being subject to the right to know law. But if there's someone's texting you what to say in the meeting, I'm not saying that's happening, but something like that, I would say that's more subject to the meeting, because that's information that's influencing the discussion of the meeting.
Yeah, I've been on committees where the legal guidance to the committee was that to not have cell phones or laptops out because those communications can be subject to right to know.
Yeah, and that's just one of those, when it's a gray area, we're going to err on the side of saying, yes, you do have to disclose that. So if you were to say, like, right now, should I have my phone out, I would say no, right? Because there might be some communications that are subject, some that are not. It's hard to say without seeing the actual communication. Better rule of thumb is to just not have it, and I imagine you probably don't need it.
Well, and I think too, like, I often have mine out because my children are at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I get a text, the dog puked on the carpet, I mean, they can have that for right to know if they want. Like, okay, get the cleaner from under the couch, under the sink or whatever. But if I'm texting, Shannon and being like, hey, make sure you say this or whatever, that's a whole different, like,
Exactly.
I'll have to turn them both over. Nobody's going to care that my dog puked on the carpet and I'm telling the kid where to find the carpet cleaner, but they might care what I'm telling Shannon to say in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would also add that there's also an exception under the right to know statute for things that are an unreasonable invasion of privacy, and that's sort of a vague term, but you can imagine if there's some sort of communication noting that family emergency came in during a meeting, right? That's probably going to be an unreasonable invasion of privacy if someone requests a copy of that record.
Well, that's why I was wondering, because like if people have their phones out and they're texting, is the presumption from the district that those records are now subject to right to know? Or
Well, there's always a
only-
presumption in favor of the public access. So if
Okay.
you were to say that unreasonable invasion of privacy, the burden would be on y'all to demonstrate that this would be an unreasonable invasion of privacy.
Okay.
What about if laptops are used for presentations? Because there was a lot of that last year as well. So if we're going to ban electronic devices, it would be a little difficult to do presentations.
Right, and that's this. Imagine if you just have a presentation up, there's no communication happening anyways. The only thing I can think of is maybe if you had, sometimes there's a presenter view, in presentations, or what you see is different than what goes on the screen, something like that. That might cause, maybe someone might be putting a request to view those presenter notes that are only you can see, something like that. But otherwise, I don't see that as an issue.
And I'm not suggesting anything get banned. I was just wondering if I have my cell phone out or a laptop out and someone emails and say, hey, I saw Joanne Grobecker on her laptop, I want access to what she was doing. Is that something the district will say, yes, turn it over? They'll say, no, you don't have the requirement to do that. That was my question.
Oh, okay.
I'm not in favor of anything. I'm just asking what the guidelines are now that I'm on this committee.
Let me email the board back, and and for a sort of general answer, it's hard to say without knowing exactly what was going on.
And then I have a follow-up to that, just about accessibility and stuff.
Mhm.
I have horrible handwriting,
Mhm.
absolutely horrific. I take a lot of my notes from my laptop.
Right.
It's quicker, it's faster, it's easier for me to do than write out everything.
Yeah.
I would love to know about the accessibility and like me writing notes. Is that an issue with my laptop?
I don't see that as an issue.
But then that's where the whole like somebody has a right to know what's on my laptop.
Right.
It's not communication though, right?
Well, if it's a public record, let's say if you circulate those notes to the board, right, then that might constitute as a public record. But otherwise, I would say no, that's not an issue.
So notes would be okay.
Those should be okay.
I think there's a stipulation right in 91A that talks about private notes or personal notes
Okay.
not being.
I just want to make sure
Yes.
because I don't want to
Yeah, there is
have
a
people all of a sudden like wanting to have my laptop, and I'm just like, this is my private notes.
yeah, there is an exception for personal notes. I would say they're no longer personal if they get shared amongst the board or used in discussions after the
I
fact.
have a hard time understanding my own notes, so they would have fun with that, but that's okay.
I mean, it seems like the spirit is truly if information is being disseminated amongst the members in the spirit that it's being kept from the public. So
Right.
my personal notes would all be things that were shared in the meeting and available to the public as well.
I'm not a member of the committee. as the administrative assistant, I send out emails, and you haven't said anything about blind copying or reply all. But every right to know training I've ever been to, reply all is the bane of everybody's existence as far as 91A goes.
Right.
That you never should reply all, you always blind copy everybody.
Thanks for bringing it up. That's a good point, right? So if you're replying all, then you're creating a communication amongst the quorum.
Amongst everybody, and that could be viewed as a meeting. And the second thing was, in answer to your question, there actually is a law about how long most public documents have to be kept, and minutes are forever. And certain other records, they have number of years and things. When you file for office, I have to keep those records for so many years, plus after you end the term that you're on. But other things, forever. So, there are, I'm very, very conscious of how long things have to go through and weed things out, but just something else to think about.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to,
Joanne, why don't you-
but I've been doing it a long time, and I have to be aware of how long to keep records.
I just had another question. What is the district's guidance on board members publicly commenting on town Facebook threads?
Good question.
I don't view that as a board member action. It seems like it's something that they're doing as a private citizen. If they're using a Facebook comment thread, if the board is using a Facebook comment thread as some sort of get around, like I said, like if all 12 of y'all wins the same comment section and start talking, that's a different story. But a single person commenting on something, there's no quorum, there's no contemporaneous communication. I don't see that as an issue.
Can I follow up to that?
Oh, yeah, because I have a lot of questions on that. Like, would you consider a quorum 7 people commenting on that thread? Would there be a disclaimer required? I'm just wondering if the district has any guidance on that.
If there's 7 people commenting and they're discussing board business, then that sounds like that's turning into a public meeting.
Okay. So it's the number of board members that comment?
It's the 2 parts, the quorum and whether they're discussing things that fall within the board's purview.
Okay, thank you.
So if that were to happen, and obviously we will all do everything we can to make sure that doesn't, to resolve the fact that it wasn't a public meeting, would then the appropriate thing to do be to essentially read that at a public meeting then, so it can be as part of the record
Yes.
and available to the public?
Yeah, the goal is to make sure that the public has access to these records. If you basically recreate the situation in front of the public, then you're providing that.
Okay.
I would also say, archive that thread, make sure you have a copy of it in case someone asks for it. Say, here we go. And then you can compare it to meeting minutes and prove, yes, we did indeed do this for the public.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's definitely a tricky slope, and I just wanted to talk to the members about it. I didn't know if this would be the time to do it. There are very active people on our forums, and a lot of time there are very active members here who are actively commenting. Does that also take into account like likes, dislikes, like those little emojis, making sure it's such a tricky slope, and I stay away from the forums when they start talking about school board because I don't want my name being associated with that because I don't want to get stuck in that quorum. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, likes, emojis, I mean, the purpose is to communicate a message, right?
So that is
they'd say it's the same as, typing something out. You're communicating a message through those symbols.
So my question is, so when somebody puts something out on the forum and then people start addressing it from our board and it gets to like 150 strings, are you saying that, or 150 posts, is that something that 150 posts we have to announce here and read all those messages? I'm just trying to quantify, like, because I think we really should be staying away from those Facebook posts.
Right, it seems like a good idea, just not
because
to
then we would have to
jump
start.
in. If there's 150, well,
But there would have to be 7 of us, right? There'd have to be, for us, there would have to be 7 of us commenting or liking.
Not necessarily.
For there to be a problem.
Like the spirit of it is, right, we don't do that. We don't do communications out here. So if you only got 6, but you're edging at it and you're like, you're still kind of like transgressing it. And like, frankly, like there are things that I would question. So I don't get into, I'm not on the forums, like I don't do the Facebook thing, but like I saw copies of posts from last year where like members of the committee were like literally calling for members of the public and even outside of Merrimack to like submit letters to like, you know, try to push people into like certain directions. And it's like, whoa, is that, how does that go in terms of, you know, exercising official business outside of the room and, you know, trying to get the public to influence the committee?
Right.
And there are multiple people who are involved in that thread. Like, is that official business?
Right. So, like you mentioned, the spirit of it, and I would say when you first asked about someone commenting in a Facebook post, my initial thought when you asked that question was an individual member of the board, when asked, like, this is my view on the subject. I wasn't thinking, you know, people essentially organizing unofficial meetings in a comment section, right? I would say rule of thumb, think about why are you trying to do the thing that you're doing, right? You can, as a private individual, you can still express your views on any topic, right? But if your goal of making that comment is to sway another member of your board into a certain position, right? Or if your goal is to influence the next board meeting, right? Think about the intent of what's going on. And that's going to be your good rule of thumb.
But it's okay to provide information and or explain situations to members of the public. It's not, that's a whole different thing, right? Because that's not influencing board business. Unless you're saying, hey, everybody email somebody. You're not asking people to get involved. There are times as a board member when somebody will say, blah, 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 whatever is happening, and I will often say, you know, hey, well, the board, this is what actually happened at the meeting. This is what was said, blah, blah, blah.
So factual information.
Usually there's a link, and I try to be informative and, you know.
I would say, like, if you're talking about like factual information, that's, you know, that's, I guess, imagine that's you're linking to the previous board minutes or something like that. That doesn't necessarily fall under the second prong of something under the board's purview or control. And I would say avoid getting into, I would say as a rule of thumb, it's probably not a great idea to get into too many Facebook arguments over what happens at board meetings. But if it does happen, you know, things like linking to past board meeting, explaining factually what happened at a previous board meeting, that's not a discussion of the actual board business, which is the budget, right? Because the purpose of the board isn't to discuss what happened at previous board meetings, it's the budget. So I would just say focus on the intent, focus on, you know, factual information like that. Probably avoid these situations if you can. If you really need to say, like, this is my position on this topic, you know, Facebook allows you to lock comments, right? Facebook allows you to disable replies or any other social media. You know, there are ways to, if you need to get some information or a statement out there, there are ways to do it without creating a comment section that turns into a full on-board discussion.
I appreciate that feedback. I have one more question, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Unless yours is talking about this, okay. You made you talked about, and let me pause for a second. Thank you for that clarification about Facebook. So factual versus opinion, that makes sense.
Well, I wouldn't say factual versus opinion. I would say, I mean, factual in terms of like what happened at a board meeting is not really the purpose of the budget committee.
Right.
Right? Think about what is the purpose of the budget committee. The purpose of the budget committee is to discuss the budget. You know, a factual discussion of what happened at a board meeting, that's, you know, not really the purpose of the budget committee.
Okay. My next question was for you about, you talked about remote settings, like if somebody was out because of like a disability or something, like somebody last year, they got hurt and they weren't able to come. And we made a motion and we passed it that if people needed to attend remote, it was allowed. But you kind of alluded that everything should be in person. Are we still following the same guidelines? Have laws and rules changed? Or is it that's still okay?
Well, if someone's hurt, if they have a medical reason, that's fine. You just need a reason.
Okay,
So it's
I just
whenever
wanted to
it's
make
not
sure.
reasonably practical for them to attend in person. You know, a blanket policy that says you can attend remote if you want to, that's not going to fly. But if someone has an actual reason why they can't attend, then that's fine.
And I believe we still have to have a physical quorum present in the meeting, so that if we did have a member in that situation, as long as we have a physical quorum who's at the meeting.
Gary, for your knowledge, this committee a few years ago voted that it was not going to allow remote, because remember the law says that the committee may allow it. So the committee decided not to allow it.
Thank you.
And that's what happened. And then last year, they changed it and said, nope, we're going to go back to the law the way it's written. So that but again, it's up to you have to get to the chair ahead of time, and we have to be sure we have a phone, and there's a whole.
Thank you.
I have another question about the Facebook issue. I think maybe a couple of other members have candidate Facebook accounts where we, express our viewpoint about, different reasons why we should be elected or whatnot. And sometimes people will ask a question and you can answer it. I mean, mine personally isn't terribly active because I'm not running and won't be for a couple of years, but that doesn't sound like it would fall under
No,
right to know.
that should be fine. And that's when the
Yeah.
question first came up about social media. That's the sort of thing that I had in mind, and that's why I said I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah.
Right. So you're still a private person. You can still you obviously have to you're a candidate, right? You have to communicate to the
Yeah.
public in that sense. And if people are commenting, you can have 10,000 comments as long as it's not a quorum of the board, right? Right. If they're just people, voters trying to get your positions on things.
Yes.
They're not. There can't be a quorum of the board. There's no board member discussion if they're not board members.
And I think for us, just speaking on the school board, there have been times when people in the community have commented on the post or whatever, and the first thing I do is I just read all the comments. And as long as there's no other board members on there, if I feel like there's something I can contribute, I'll contribute. If I see another board member, I might comment as long as I know it's just the two of us, and I might only if I have something to add that's different from that board member. But generally it's like, oh no, that's not accurate, or that's not whatever. It's try to keep it as factual as possible. But I think the biggest thing is when we're commenting is just to make sure there's not 10 of us in there all discussing the budget. Would be a poor idea.
And I think the value of it is that if you can provide information or dispel misinformation, then you're providing the public with the knowledge that maybe they didn't get because they didn't watch or attend a meeting, right? So you're providing a value to the public, and it's not a conversation among one another. Like you comment on one person's misinformation, I comment on another person's question. We're not talking with each other. We're responding to the individual. So I feel like there's value there, and it doesn't, in my opinion, circumvent the spirit of the law, even though two of us commented on the same thread. You know what I mean?
I think if 7 of us were to, I think it would be, I think
We have to
even,
be careful.
I wouldn't personally, if I saw that there were 6 of you already commenting, I wouldn't jump in any capacity,
Right.
personally, because then it's a quorum and then it becomes really murky.
And last
and
year
I
I
liked
had
your
to do
idea
that.
about just linking to the meeting minutes, or in our case, the Merrimack TV video, hey, there's a question about that. You can go right back and look, and if you're really savvy, you can be like, at minute, whatever, this question was answered.
Yeah.
I should probably be better about doing that, and then I could save myself the word count.
And last year I had to email the whole committee and say, this thread is happening. Please do not any more people comment. We have reached, it wasn't even quorum yet, but it was we're close to reaching that threshold. And then we had another thing that happened where someone specifically tagged committee members asking them to weigh in on something, and that I shut that down too, because again, that felt like it was becoming a meeting. So.
A practical question. So I've been told that we're going to have access to SAU emails. If there is a right to know request, that can be pulled on the back end. We don't have to take action on our end, correct?
I'm not familiar with the district's IT.
As long as your communication.
Yes. Yeah, the IT people can just grab it
Yeah.
from your
Okay.
SAU account.
And we'll get an update on how to get those emails tonight? Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
As long as your communication is happening through the SAU email, you're going to be covered because they're going to do a data dump of whatever emails you've received. It's when you're using a personal email, then it gets difficult to parse that out from your other emails, or, you know, text messages and other types of things too.
Thank you.
I'm a little curious who does the adjudications for what is appropriate for, you know, so when people give a whole bunch of stuff for like, oh, there's a right to know request and you just get swamped and stuff, who goes through it and like decides what all is like in scope and what all is out of scope? Because I remember hearing about at least like one thing that got released to the public for some right to know about a meeting that wasn't even about the budget committee, and they were trying to make a to-do about it on Facebook about who was going to that so like to me it was kind of like it seemed like a transgression of that, I forget what you call it, but like personal privacy for the people who were involved. Like they submitted it just from the perspective of, you asked for communications, here they are, but that somebody made the adjudication to share that, you know, ostensibly private information with the public, who then tried to weaponize it against committee members. So like who makes those adjudications, and is there, you know, like if they do it poorly, like, I don't know, are they in trouble?
I can only, so we, I guess at the law firm, we have a point of contact with the school district. General process is, you know, you get notified there's been a right to know request. We look at the request and we take a look at it. We see what's a legitimate request, you know, ask whoever a point of contact happens to be, you know, changes different for district to district. Ask for responsive documents. We then review them, make sure there's no privileged information, no confidential information, everything's responsive, and then we facilitate that back. But usually, it's us at the law firm who make those decisions.
Yeah, and it's also directly related to sort of what would be going on here, right? So like my dad happens to be on the committee. So if I'm messaging my dad and I'm like, hey, want to come to Sawyer's birthday party this weekend? You available? Come at 5 p.m., right? You're not gonna care about that. Or also everybody, if anybody wants to know, you know, like go ahead. But I don't have to share that piece of information. That doesn't have to go out there because he's my father. You know what I mean? Like whatever we communicate about, that's different. That unless it's my dad and Joanne and Caitlin and myself and Chuck on a thing, and I say, well, it's private because my dad. Well, no, it's not, because then there's a bunch of us talking about budget committee stuff. That's a whole different thing. Or if I'm like, hey, let's all get together and talk about budget committee stuff, that's a whole different thing. You know, so it's in relation to, does it have any applicability to what the work that we do here? Sawyer's birthday party? No. Us all getting together at, you know, the homestead to talk about how the next meeting's going to go, or what we think about a certain issue, totally different.
I would say as a follow-up also, if something gets out to the public and it gets weaponized or misconstrued, you know, by members of the public, that's unfortunate, but that's whether or not the public decides to weaponize that doesn't change whether or not it's responsive to the request or whether or not it falls under the exception, unfortunately, right? So if there's something responsive, doesn't fit a specific exception, gets produced, they weaponize it, misconstrue it, that's unfortunate, but it still is a public record under the right to know law.
All comes with being a public official.
I have a question, actually, about what happens after the right to know request has been processed and all the material has been given to the person who made the request. Isn't that information disclosed to the public in some way? I mean,
I'm not sure what you mean.
We had a couple of right to know requests on the, you know, for material from this committee, and this is my first year serving, so I didn't really understand the process completely, and I thought that at the end of it we would all get some kind of report about the findings of this request, and it seems like the person who makes the right to know request, they get this whole dump of stuff and they can share it with who they choose to share it with, but it's not public. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure. So under the right to know, once if
Can-
someone requests documents, they can get it. They can do whatever they want with their own copy of those records. And in
Okay.
terms of, I guess, a report to individual board members saying, like, it's the result of the right
Or
to know.
anyone in the public who wants to see the result of a right to know request.
I guess if y'all want to have the results of the right to know request shared more amongst the board members, that's an internal board policy, I would say. Whoever the point of contact is with the board, y'all can come up with a policy to share amongst each other results of right to know requests. That's not really something that's a legal issue. That's just sort of an internal board communication issue. And once the member of the public, once they get that request, like I said, they can do whatever they want with it. They can post it on Facebook. They can email it to their friends. They can take it to the news.
But if somebody else, like say another member of the public, wanted some of that similar information, they would have to file their own right to know request?
They would file their own right to know request. It'd be easier if they asked for the exact same thing. It'd be easy to respond to. But yeah, they could file their own right to know request.
Yeah. So the point isn't that I get this information to give it to the public. The point is that any person in the public can get any piece of information they want from any communication from public officials. So if I have information I want and I feel like it's being withheld, I can make a right to know request to get that information. It's not that right to know means anything I get then has to be given to the whole wide world. You know what I mean? It's really just so that any individual can get the information they want from government officials.
I guess I was just thinking if there's information that someone feels is being withheld, it's being withheld from everyone out there in the public, why wouldn't it be disseminated to the public in some
Can I ask a
legal-
follow-up that might be
some
helpful?
legal
Because
way?
I have a similar question. So
Yeah.
say, as a member, we are aware that someone has made a right-to-know request to this committee, and that request is fulfilled, regardless of if we have a policy or not that we get that. Can you make a right-to-know request on right-to-know request? So could we say,
Yeah.
can I have the
Yeah.
results of that? Can I write to know what the results of that right-to-know request were?
There you go.
Not make the original request, but say, can I write to know the right-to-know request?
That seems fine to me as long as there's nothing privileged that comes up. That I don't think there would be, so I think that should be fine, yeah.
So then you could get it, and not have to
That's-
know the original request.
You put it more eloquently than I did, but you've got my point.
I like your question. No, I like
Yeah.
this.
There are a lot of questions that we could have, and certainly a lot of scenarios, but I also want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I appreciate Attorney Gray, you coming
Thank
and
you. Can I
sharing.
just
This
ask
was
one
very helpful,
follow-up?
thank you.
Yeah, please.
Just in terms of that, if someone puts in a right to know request for a right to know request,
Yep.
one thing to keep in mind though is that in response to the right to know request, you don't have to create any documents that didn't already exist. So if someone says, I want a summary of how that past right to know request went, chances are you didn't draft that document, right? So if it doesn't exist, you don't have to create it.
But they could share all the you could write to know all of the documents from that right to know
Yeah.
request.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And to be fair here, Jennifer certainly told this, I did. And to be fair here, Jennifer certainly did tell the committee that she had a right to know request and she had fulfilled it. And that's all the committee should be caring about, because the person that you give the request to, if they have further questions or wants to do something with the information they got, we're going to hear about it.
And you said you would email us after the meeting about the guidance on committee members for electronic devices?
Yeah, because I don't want to give you a across the board answer off the top of my head. I'll look into that a bit and I'll email the board.
Thank you. Can I ask one other question, just while we have you here? Because
Yeah,
I know
fine.
some people like to testify at the legislature, and I know I was wondering if Merrimack School District has guidance on if a member of the public can say, I am testifying and I am a member of Merrimack School District's Budget Committee, or if they're not allowed to say that, what the guidance is.
I would say I would avoid doing that because you don't want to give the impression, I don't know whether it's lawful or not, but you don't want to give the impression that you're testifying as a representative of the Merrimack Budget Committee, right? Because if you've been appointed by, if like hypothetically the board did appoint someone to go testify as the Merrimack Budget Committee, it can become a public record if you appoint an individual person to represent the body as a whole, right? Because the board can delegate certain authorities. You could mention like what happens in the warrant article things. You say, I'm a member of the budget committee, but I'm testifying as a private individual, right? You don't have to hide who you are, but you don't want to give the impression that you're testifying as the budget committee, or
Thank
that
you.
the budget committee delegated their broader authority to you.
Thank you. And you had told Marie you're going to email us this PowerPoint?
Yes, and I have,
Thank you. This was helpful.
I can give this to you. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you very much, Attorney Gregg. All right, and up next we have our school board chair, Lori Peters, to do a budget update from the school board.
While I'm getting my laptop set up, I just wanted to address a couple of things, particularly to Joanne. If someone said, I saw Joanne Grobnecker on her phone and I want to know what it is, the very first thing that would happen is we'd call the attorney. And the attorney would say, Joanne, I want to have a one-on-one conversation with you about what you were texting. And you'd say, oh, well, my daughter texted, she was home, she wanted to know when I was coming back home. And you'd say, then you don't have to disclose that, and then we just notify the person that it is excluded from that thing. So we don't do anything without contacting the attorney first because of those exclusions.
Thank you.
Also, I would add just something for me personally. Many of you have probably seen me tagged in posts in Merrimack Forum, the Merrimack Forum, the other 4 gazillion Merrimack Forums, and I never respond, ever. I use my SAU email for all communications, and as hard as it is sometimes not to comment on social media, I 99.9% of the time don't. When somebody says, what day is graduation? Jenna or I will usually respond to that, or...
Jenna responds to a lot of things, actually, but, I try to be very careful.
Yes, and somebody the other day was asking for help on a report they were doing for school, and it was statistics, and it was an area that I could help them with. So I responded to that. It was totally not related to the school board, and that was like the first time in forever that I've commented in one of the forums. So those are just my personal rules to avoid all of this. So that being said, congratulations to those who were elected and re-elected to the Budget Committee. And we look forward to working with you this year on the next budget. As you know, we had to make changes to be into default. And what is before you were the recommended reductions in the original proposed budget. And those are on the website as well. I just wanted to have them up there. But the easiest way for me to explain to you the reductions that we make was actually to tell you what we kept, because the list of what we kept is much shorter than what was reduced, because the majority of this list stayed on this list. So the things that we kept or modified, we kept one gifted and talented FTE position. Now, the board had a long discussion about this last year. We also had a discussion about it at the board meeting earlier in May. One of our goals that we're going to discuss at our goals meeting will be really taking a look at revamping educating exceptional children. So besides that very strict cutoff of students who are tested and qualify for gifted and talented, we want to expand that to the wider breadth of exceptional students. That's going to include an entire overhaul of that program, but in the meantime, this is why we've kept one FTE. It will also entail professional development for our teachers to support them in differentiation for exceptional students in the classroom. One of the things that came up after the budget was voted on by the members of the public was an increase in our ESOL community. That increase has required us to hire another staff member. And so we wanted to keep the registrar full-time. That's not going to be possible because we need one FTE ESOL at 100K. So that's not going to be on that list because it was a new need. It's required by law, and we had to add that position into the budget. So we had to make room for that position. We did keep the math interventionist, but we reduced the hours to part-time. We believe that our math program, curriculum, and interventions is one of the next major goals. We have addressed ELA in K through 8, and now it's time to address math. And part of that, just like the reading interventionists were for our ELA, a math interventionist is part of that programming to improve math scores. We did feel like we could keep in the proposed budget the middle school boys soccer B team. One of the reasons that we felt like we could keep that in for $2,000 is because they will be riding with the other team. It's not an increase in transportation costs. It's not an increase in ref costs. It's just an increase in some equipment and coaching costs. So that was more reasonable. The lacrosse we could not keep in. We kept the supplies needed for gifted and talented and enrichment. And then we kept the civics texts, primarily because, as Amy Doyle has mentioned before, our civics test mentions Senator Obama. They're that old. But additionally, there is movement at the state level and the State Board of Education to have civics, rather than being a one semester class, a full semester class. And our current text that's out of date also doesn't really support a year-long curriculum. That curriculum will be a combination of digital and physical. We do limit how many physical textbooks we order, but we have to have some. And we try to use digital as much as possible as well. The cost is relatively the same whether you go all digital, all physical, or a hybrid. So that remained. Because we eliminated the SAU K through 8 Director of School Counseling position at $120,000, what we've done is the person who is moving into a counseling position for one of our schools, who has been our K through 8 director, will be receiving a $10,000 stipend to do that K through 8 work in addition to being a school counselor. We still have a need for another school counselor that we won't be fulfilling this year, but we feel like this is one way that we can keep that important K through 8 work and that consistency across the counseling departments with this stipend. And lastly, after much discussion, we agreed that the registrar position really was too important to reduce to zero. That registrar position is not only critical for enrollment and centralizing enrollment so parents don't have to go to 2 or 3 different school buildings to enroll their students, but also the really important and necessary work of verifying residential status. And as Bill Olson shared, that's actually becoming a greater and greater challenge to districts, is verifying that people actually live in the district that are enrolling their students. Altogether, those kept amounts came to $349,773, which is approximately $5,900 still over default. So the board voted to authorize administration to move other lines around and underfund other lines so that that $5,900 difference would be made up for in the existing default budget. And with that, I'll answer any questions. Joanne.
I had a question just about the textbooks. Can you get only physical textbooks without the digital with it?
Some publishers will do it. You just don't pay for the license part of it, but you miss out on a lot of the additional resources that are listed in that textbook. So there's a lot of enrichment activities, connections to, let me use math for an example. There are a lot of digital resources that you're cutting off that are mentioned in the textbook if you don't have that digital component. So can you function with that? Yes. The interesting thing is it basically costs the same to have a physical textbook for every student. Costs the same as if we have a hybrid model and allow students to choose whether they want a physical or digital.
Yeah, I was under the impression that you could always get a digital version for like assistive technology.
Yes.
Okay.
So
students would always have the option for
Yes.
digital if they need it.
Yes, but we actually do have some students who want that physical textbook in the classroom, and that's where we generally keep them unless there's something they need to take it home. They generally stay in the classroom, and there are some students that want that physical textbook, and that's why we have them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a budget question, but just a follow-up to that. Can parents request that their student bring home a physical textbook?
I think that would be a building leadership question. It's going to depend on how that teacher uses. I mean, if they want to view the textbook, of course, absolutely. But if they're asking it to come home daily for homework, not every teacher has textbook homework every day. So I think it would be maybe talking to the teacher first, and then building administration, depending on what the desire is to have the textbook. I know for me, even in math class, there were plenty of days that I didn't have. It wasn't textbook work that they were doing that day.
It might be grade specific too, because I know I have books at my house. So some physical textbooks do come home.
They do.
Yeah, it's just that my daughter was allowed to bring home books last year. just
Yeah, so
we
I don't
could
know.
see.
Maybe
So
I
that-
just
I have no idea whether my child is like, please, can I have a book? I
Yeah.
doubt it, but I don't know if that's a my child thing or if that's the teacher said you should
it
bring,
home.
or if I have no idea. But I have physics, for example. I see that book all the time, so I don't know if it's availability. If those teachers happen to have extra availability of the books.
I would say it would be.
It might be class or teacher specific.
I would ask because I know there is availability where they share books between all the classes that go through. So a kid doesn't have their own personal book that goes to their locker with them. But you could request one.
I rarely see a textbook come home, so perhaps that's a personal choice on behalf of the student.
And I will tell you, as I was on an inspection of the high school today for the Joint Loss Management Committee, students don't use lockers in the high school. They have gone the way of COVID. This is true where I work as well. So that's why you will see students walking around with 2 backpacks, and they just don't use lockers anymore.
It's because they don't wear jackets anymore. That's not cool.
Right.
Well, that stops long before high school, though. Thank you. Thank
welcome.
you for coming and sharing that with us. We know that when the budget goes to default, there are cuts and reductions that need to be made. So I appreciate the time that you and the board and administration took in making those cuts. Thank you. Oh, we have lights again. So there is light. Next on our agenda, we have the committee policies and procedures review. So I know Pat included a number of those in our packets. And Jennifer, you had also passed out the orientation to meetings that the school board uses, which I actually had printed my own copy before I came here.
Could I speak to that before we do the overview?
Sure.
I read it over.
Marie, is your
and-
mic on? I'm sorry, I can't really tell if it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
all right,
Maybe
thank
I'm
you.
not close enough. I read it over, and there's an omission that I would like to point out. Last October, the October 15th, 24 meeting, there was a motion made and passed unanimously to include in the policies and procedure that the copy of the committee policy and procedures would be provided to new members when they are sworn in. And that's supposed to be included, and I didn't see it in here.
Which section were you talking about?
Which section?
Thank you.
No, I'm just.
Marie, you are right.
I'm
that-
just saying, on October 15th
Yes.
of '24, Well, actually, I guess it was under member conduct we were discussing, and a motion was made and passed unanimously by the committee to include in that member conduct section that all new members would be provided a copy of the policy and procedures upon their swearing in, so that.
Marie, you
Yeah.
are correct, but
Yeah.
as the clerk, not of this committee, I do the swearing in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and because I happen to be the administrative assistant of this committee,
Mm-hmm.
when I did the swearing in, I gave every single one of the new people a copy of the policies. I'm not quite sure how you can tell the clerk, who's not a member of your committee, what they have to do. Because it is the clerk that's doing the swearing in and who's handing out the policy.
Well,
and you can't tell me what to do as the clerk.
It was
may be
motioned
something
and
that,
passed,
and
unanimously.
it was done. It was done, absolutely. I agree
Yeah.
with you, it's a good idea, and it was done. But because I'm the clerk and I'm the one who does the swearing in, and that's the clerk of the school district, which is my elected position. But this committee can't tell the elected clerk what to do and how to do it.
Can that be underneath the chair as a?
Well, I was just going to say, we
The
could.
chair's
Yes, I think-
responsibility to make sure that that information is
Yeah.
passed on?
Yeah, it could be just an email. But I know last year, this whole blind copy thing, I had not a clue about it. And I made a mistake, and it was pointed out publicly to everybody on the committee. And I had no idea because we hadn't received policies and procedures. We didn't get them until like the fall.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I feel like everybody does that when they first get on either the board or the budget committee. I
Well-
mean, not that that makes it better, but I think we've all made that
Yeah.
mistake, and then we just, and then, it happens on the board too, oh, just a reminder, don't do
Yeah.
that, and then we all move on,
But
like.
but it seemed like a simple thing that, and in fact, I asked when I was elected if there were bylaws or policies that I should receive. And I actually was told by someone that there were no bylaws. Now, probably not bylaws, but they're policies and procedures. But I think the motion was made and passed that it simply said they'd be provided to new members, okay, when they're sworn in. So maybe just change the when they're sworn in to immediately after they're sworn in, they get it via email.
Yeah, if it's the responsibility of the chair,
Sure, something like that.
would
But
someone
if-
like,
But if the new members each got this, I don't understand what your point is.
My
Just
point
that
is
we
it happened-
record it here?
My point is, it happened this time, but if it's not in the policies and procedures, say we get a new person in that position.
But I think it's been pointed
Yeah.
out that we can't tell an elected official what to do. So
Correct.
even if we put it in there, it has no meaning in getting that done, unless we can find a way around this.
Well,
And if it worked, if everybody got the policies and procedures, and I assume you all did, then I don't know what the point is.
Well, I think, Heather, you said that you could just put it in here as a responsibility of the chairperson, yes?
if someone would like to make a motion?
I would be happy to make a motion that we.
And I would
make-
second that, yeah.
No, that we would add that as a responsibility for the chairperson, wherever, I'm going to say wherever it would feel appropriate on here. I'm not going to tell you where to put it.
But maybe prior to the first meeting?
Yes,
if
prior
they-
to the first meeting, all new members receive from the acting chairperson or something. Can we all trust Heather to maybe draft it correctly, hopefully?
We can vote on it.
Okay, great.
All right, all those in favor of adding an amendment that says that everyone will get their policies? All right, and all those opposed? Any abstentions? Chuck?
Okay, Chuck abstained.
Okay. All right.
So I'd like to make a motion, because similarly, this year, I really wanted or tried to impress upon everybody the importance of having an SAU email address for the aforementioned reasons related to right to know. And I actually asked that all of the new members have an email address assigned to them. And so I would like to make a motion that all members of the committee must use an SAU email address for committee correspondence.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We all tried to second
Brian
it.
was
Brian
first.
got it.
He was quicker than me.
All right, any discussion before we vote on that? Okay.
My only,
Yeah,
I would
go
just
ahead.
confirm that there's not already a member that is a student that has your exact first and last name as I have discovered. So that people don't go to send emails to me and they send them to a high schooler over and over again.
Well, I think that Jason, our IT director. All right, well, we'll hope that doesn't happen again.
Wow.
All right. Then all those in favor of adding in that committee members will use an SAU assigned email? Show of hands. 1, 2. You got it, Pat?
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I have 2 abstentions.
Or we might have a opposition. So you got the 4? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. Were there any other things right now that we wanted to discuss regarding our policies and procedures? It's definitely good for us to all be aware of them. Yeah.
Point of information. So we just voted that we can only use our SAU emails, but we don't have SAU emails. Some of us don't.
We voted that we would, when you become a new member, you get assigned an SAU email address that you will use.
Correct, but I don't currently have one, so how will people communicate?
That's what she's saying.
You
They'll
will.
assign
We will.
You
Okay.
will. You will be notified by our IT.
Okay,
That's what
perfect.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, last year, Dan, you had brought up the question about a student representative. And I would have to open my SAU email to read the attorney's response to that, but I wanted to raise that as a question or an issue here in our policies and procedures, since we did receive a response to it. If you'll give me a moment to do so. Unless my laptop is dead, in which case we won't. But essentially, Attorney Gray said that that it would basically not be allowed because it's not specified in RSA that a student would be a member of the committee. A student can attend any one of our meetings and speak as a student, but they cannot become an official member of the committee.
Thank you. I think it's wrong, but thank you.
Thank you for getting the answer to that.
Appreciate that.
There was another question raised last year about defining the committee's role and responsibilities separate from what the school board does. I had proposed a mission statement, and there was some hubbub about whether to use the mission statement language or not. But the attorney did say that that would be within our purview to include in our policy and procedures if we would like to include any language that helps the public understand how our role is different from the school board, which is something I still think that we should consider, given the fact that there's so much confusion and misinformation about what our role and responsibilities are versus what the school boards are. I'd also like to add that we, unless I'm on a roll, okay. We have something in our policies and procedures about being excused from meetings. Members should contact the chair reasonably in advance of any meeting from which they would like to be excused. But we had a couple of instances last year where members left the meeting without being excused, and there's no consequence. There's nothing outlined here. And so I wanted the committee to consider whether they felt like there needed to be something stronger in the language around that or not.
That'd be a great one to consider because I'm probably going to have to leave in 15 minutes to pick up a child. So let's talk about that.
But you already asked me when I was previous chair.
I know, but it's so awkward because I've never had to do that before. But no, if I get up, they don't know why I'm leaving. They might think I'm super mad about something that's happening. I'm not super mad. I just have a kid to pick up.
But we're first going to have to adjust and define what attendance is. I mean, if you stay here till 11 o'clock and walk out of here, I'd say you attended the meeting. If you entered here at 7 and left at 7:01, I'd question whether you had attended the meeting or even expected us to believe you attended the meeting. So I think there's some gray areas there we have to define of what attendance is.
Generally, I'd say if you attended the meeting from call to order to adjournment, then you attended the meeting.
Yeah,
and then if you leave early, you are excused from
we're saying somebody
portion
that
of the
left
meeting.
before adjournment. So
Right.
if they stayed a half an hour, are they attending? Is it 45 minutes? Is it an hour?
So you're asking how long do they have to be here to be considered present?
Exactly.
No, they just have to request an excuse from the chair ahead of time, like you did tonight. But if the member does not do that and they just leave a meeting early, to your point, no one knows why they left. It's not following the process, and we have no consequence in place. In the attendance section, we have something outlining that you have to, if you miss more than 4 meetings, there's a consequence. So do we want to strengthen the language around leaving early or being unexcused or anything like that?
I would, oh, sorry, go ahead, Andy.
If I could, don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but I think maybe it's such an extreme corner case that if it becomes an issue, maybe we deal with it, but otherwise just let it ride.
I would agree.
We don't have a motion on the table. Do we need to motion to not motion?
Yeah, we don't need a motion.
So I think. We can move on in our discussion. There were some pieces in the school board policy around public participation that I thought were really well fleshed out, as far as like speakers needing to be residents of Merrimack, New Hampshire. I think, as much as possible, we want to encourage public participation. We want people to come and speak. But I think there are certainly some components of this policy that we could look at maybe incorporating to make sure that we have a more cohesive policy and that everyone's held to the same guidelines and accountability when they come to meetings with information that they share and requirements.
And that was a gray area last year. I received public comment from someone who wasn't a resident of Merrimack, and I made a decision as the chair of what to do with that, but we didn't have a policy on it. So I do think it's important that we be clear about, which public is
there
relevant.
have been other districts who have run into lawsuits and different things because they have had non-residents come in and then been asked to stop speaking or not share their information, but because there was no set policy, it puts the committee or the district at risk. So I think it's something to keep in mind.
So are you asking to include a D in the public comment and participation that people who wish to participate must be residents of Merrimack?
I definitely support that. I know we all just got the copy of the school board public comment policy tonight. I don't think it's something we need to vote on right now necessarily, but to revisit next
Keep it
week.
in mind.
So if everyone could just take a look at what's in there, see what we feel is, germane and pertinent to what we do as a budget committee. I think we can revisit that at our next meeting. And I had printed out a different copy, but this is the copy that Jennifer gave out to everyone. I actually was at the library printing out off the SAU website, because I also, like Jennifer, thought there were some really good things in there.
And I'm not sure if it's even in here, but last year we came across, and I think, Dan, you helped me moderate this, but we had several incidents of how much time are we going to give somebody at the mic, and do people get a second turn and all of that. So I think it's worth a discussion. I personally erred on the side of the public came out to speak. We are here to serve the public, and so I tried to give as much airtime to the public as possible.
But it was, how much time would they take?
Right,
It didn't matter what you tried to do, and I thought you
Right.
did an excellent job through the whole thing. And I thought it was amazing that we had all of the people comment that we did. And I think it was a high point to this committee,
But we do have to have some parameters,
I
I think,
agree.
in place, and
because you had some people getting back in line 3, 4, and 5 times.
or doing an 8-minute spiel.
Right, and that's where if we have a well-written out policy that has the details, then we can let our visitors, as they come to the meetings, know exactly what's expected of them, and that we also do want to hear from them. But everyone will get the same opportunities to share that, and it also does cover us if, we do need to cut someone off, if that's something that, as a committee, we decide. All right, so, yes, Ashley.
What is the policy on restroom breaks? And yes.
Can I just give you the board policy?
Like, do I have to be like,
If you need to go, go.
You're going to be marked absent.
We won't consider you unexcused.
Well, I will say, unrelated to that
motion to
completely,
recess.
it would help at the beginning of the meeting, though, to say, it has nothing to do with you, that,
can
so
go,
at
Ashley.
board meetings, we'll say, if somebody's sick, so-and-so is excused or whatever, but also would help to say, and board member Hardy is excused to leave early, so that when I get up to leave and I don't come back, again, people don't think I'm just done here. There's a reason why I'm leaving.
Yeah, nope, that's always good to communicate. That way, everyone knows what's going on and whether or not it was excused. Yep.
2 more things that I'd like the committee to consider adding to our policies and procedures. One is whether we want to create a social media policy, considering we talked about it so much tonight, in terms of how we respond on social media. I don't have a strong opinion either way, but it came up last year, so I thought it would be worth a discussion. And then, from a transparency perspective, I really feel like the minutes from our meetings should be posted to the SAU internet site under Budget Committee within 5 days of the committee meeting. And that isn't always the case. We also don't typically put our, what do you guys call it for school board? Your pre-meeting supporting documentation. We don't put that out there, so we may want to consider, again, for transparency and for the public to be able to meaningfully participate.
So I don't think minutes can be put within 5 days of the meeting because they haven't been approved. So I think that's. Oh, okay. So maybe we just need a policy for that, because I don't know that we want to be posting minutes that haven't been approved yet by our committee. Just, that would be my thought.
But 5 days is contrary to the statute.
Draft minutes could be posted. I'm not advocating either way, but that is an option if you wanted to post minutes before they're approved.
Jen, was there anything else you wanted to bring up for consideration for next time when we revisit this?
That was my short list. Thank you.
I have one item. I know personally when I came to attend budget meetings, the 7 p.m. time slot is difficult for the public to attend. And I think it was nicer when you started meeting at 6 p.m. for the public to meaningfully participate. So I'd like to make a motion that under meetings, it says public meetings are held Tuesdays, October to February, and change 7 p.m. to 6 p.m.
I don't know if we can do that without their input. Like if they have something else like the media. That was last year, we had to make sure they didn't have anything else going on, right? that they could publish it at 6 o'clock. We had to get permission from them.
Does someone want to second their comment?
As long as the room is available, I think. I'll second it because,
Okay,
you know.
I think-
yeah.
Thank you.
I think also we would want to consult with central office people that attend.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
they
Merrimack
do? Okay.
TV, I mean, I don't want to speak for Merrimack TV, and I won't, but they also want to go home before 11 PM, so, yeah.
Yeah, we get a thumbs up in
They,
there.
they're here at 6 PM anyways, they'd probably be very pleased to
Yeah.
I
start.
just wanted to
getting
make sure, because last year we
got a-
started going
we got
at
a
it.
hands
We got a
up.
thumbs up. We got
Big
a
thumbs up from
in
Merrimack
there.
TV.
Perfect.
So that one we probably could vote on.
Yeah, so we have a motion to move. Yes,
Jen-
Pat? I was
Jen
going to say,
McCormick,
yes, from Jen, seconded by,
I made the motion.
oh, Joanne
Jen
made the
seconded.
motion, Jen seconded, thank you. That if the room and everyone, like for Merrimack TV, are available, that we would move our meetings to a start time of 6 PM. So all those in favor?
Well, my motion was just to move it. My motion was to edit 1A1. Public meetings are held Tuesdays, October to February at 7 PM.
But
Will you amend
asked
it
that
that?
we moved to 6, and
At
that's
six.
what
Or
the
6
vote is
PM.
on.
Yes,
That's what the
but
vote
she
is.
said if.
So
other
we don't have
people-
to add all the if language. We
Yeah,
can
you
just
don't
make
need
it
if
6
language,
PM.
Just to move it to 6 PM.
We can make it 6 PM, and then if
All in
things are
favor?
not available, then we move it.
Yeah.
I'm still in favor.
I'm still in favor. So let's clarify, because Joanne, your motion was regarding the policy.
My motion was to edit our policy under 1 meetings, A1. Public meetings are held on Tuesdays, October to February and change 7 to 6 PM. That's my motion, just changing the time from 7 PM to 6 PM.
For public, can we do it for all meetings?
Yes, so I want to change the policy and procedure document.
That is all
Yeah, I'm
meetings.
just saying public and non-public. I just want to make sure that both of them, like,
Oh.
'cause it specifically says public, so I just want to, I don't know, it says public.
So it wouldn't be just like the public hearing, was that what you were asking about? It would be
Yeah.
every meeting that we have.
Yes.
I'm saying, like,
That's where I was
all the
losing it, 'cause
meetings.
then when-
'cause
Yes.
you
It
said-
was just like the public hearing part of it.
Oh, no, so all meetings.
And
all
again, it doesn't
meetings.
preclude the chair from changing the meeting time on a specific day if we have a
If you
public
do.
hearing
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, this would just change the policy and procedure document.
And the
wording is
standard
what I'm
time.
proposing.
And then Pat will need to follow up and just ensure that the room is available and that we have Merrimack TV and Justin here for us. All right. All those in favor?
You like skipping bedtime? Yeah, I feel you.
Did you get those in favor, Pat? Oppositions? Abstentions? All right. Then we will move on from the policies and procedures review. What we will discuss in our next meeting is reviewing our public comment portion of the policy and what we want to incorporate from the school district's visitor orientation in their public comment policy. Jennifer also brought up sharing agendas and supplemental materials and potentially discussing a social media policy.
Oh, could I just ask for one more tiny change to the liaison team section? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. Section B, number 3. The wording of that bothers me, and I would just like to see the word only move to the front of that phrase, because it says the liaison team leads only contact the department head. And it makes more sense, and the meaning of it is only the liaison team leads will contact the department head.
So I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. My understanding of part of that is that the request from administration and the school leadership was that there were some members reaching out to individual teachers or staff members who were not the actual department heads, which I know that caused some issues, so I think that was part of it.
But if you change it to only the team leads can contact, then you're eliminating individual team members from contacting non-department heads as well.
The only was supposed to be in the front?
Okay.
Yeah.
Only the team lead.
If there's
That's
a
how I
motion,
took-
we can
that's how I took it.
certainly.
I'll move that we, in section B of liaison teams, number 3, that we move the word only to the front of the phrase.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so the motion is to change under 7B3 to only the liaison team leads contact the department head. All those in favor?
Sorry for discussion. So this
Sure.
would change the liaison team leads from not contacting teachers to being able to contact teachers and other people?
No, so the intent is that it's just that the lead liaison for the team is the one who's contacting the department head.
Okay.
So it retains the original intent. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay. All those in favor?
She was still mad, remember?
All right. Are you all set, Pat? Do you want me to call oppositions and abstentions, or, okay. Any oppositions?
Right next to you.
And I abstain. All right.
I'm sorry, I forgot, I found a second page. We will be talking about filling a vacancy tonight, but we don't have anything in our policy and procedures about the process for filling a vacancy. So I think that we should add that in.
Can I comment on that? Because in the past, I believe the next highest vote getter was given or at least entertained that. Are we looking at that?
So a few years ago, I went to one of the meetings.
We can't do it?
No.
I have no idea who it was.
It's in the law that they can be appointed or elected.
And if they were the next highest voter, wouldn't that mean that they were elected?
Or if we just decided to try to appoint that person, that makes it right.
A couple years ago, I went for the school board budget committee, and I didn't get the vote. I had to come in during one of these meetings, and then the board elected the individual. I believe it was Rachel, between
No, it was
Rachel.
Heather.
Oh, right, Heather, there you go.
That was a
So-
fun process.
It was a fun process, so, yeah, it just makes sense.
And I've seen other boards, like the water board, filling vacant positions, and they have people express their interest, and they come in and they're interviewed, and then the committee votes. That seems like a good
That's
process.
what the committee has done in the past typically. So first, we have to accept the resignation. So that would be our first step, and then,
Haven't we done that?
no, we have to accept it as a committee, accept the resignation, and then discuss the process and when we would do the interviews, if that's what we are choosing to do.
So my point of bringing it up was just we should add the process to the policies and procedures.
Yep. I have that noted under our policies and procedures discussion.
Do I need to make a motion of that?
If you would like to make that happen now, you can certainly make that motion.
Does it require any discussion? Well, I'll make the motion. I motion that we add our process for filling vacancies to our
Nice.
policies and procedures.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? The second was Shannon. Well, no, I was just like, did anyone want to discuss it before we vote on it? It will go to a vote, but if,
Yes, I do.
okay.
And I still think that the next highest vote getter should be entertained, and that information has to be out there someplace. Otherwise, the people around this table are disenfranchising all of the voters who voted for whatever person that is. And I, for one, don't think my position here is enough to disenfranchise any voter in this district. So I would suggest that we find out who the next highest vote getter, and if they have a murder conviction or something, we can dismiss them, but if they're perfectly capable of serving on this committee, then they should have that opportunity.
I think personally that the procedure that our town council has used to fill their empty positions, and they've had to do that fairly recently a couple of times, that seems like a good model for us to use, which is the one that I described earlier.
Except we're not the town council, we're the town budget, school budget committee.
If I may,
So-
as the school district clerk,
Yes, ma'am.
I have spoken to the Secretary of State's office about what to do, because a few years ago, we had a write-in seat. Donald Trump got the most write-ins. He was not a qualified candidate because he doesn't live in this town. So the Secretary of State's office told me to go to the next qualified candidate. That individual was declared the winner, and he declined to take the oath. I called the Secretary of State's office back and said, "What do I do?" And they said, "The seat is declared vacant. Follow whatever policy or procedure your committee does." And what we have done over the last several years, Marie, is exactly what you said. We accept the resignation. There was one year that the committee felt the resignation came in December. We had just started the budget process. Were we going to interview candidates the first week of January and put the budget even farther out? We declined to fill the seat. So you can decide not to fill it, or we put out an ad and call for people to send letters of interest. And as you said, Shannon, we interview them and then we vote for a replacement. But that's what we've done for the last 15, 20 years.
Joanne?
I'm comfortable with the policy that goes for the next votes, because I agreed to go through an entire election and then have someone resign. I feel like it, I don't know if circumvents the process is the right word, because things come up, but I feel like it should, and I'm comfortable if you want to put a time limit, say if there's a resignation within 3 months after the election, that it will be filled by the next qualified candidate with the next amount of votes.
Pat, have we received people's resumes for this position? Oh, we haven't, okay.
Yeah. I feel like closely to the election. If someone resigns after Election Day, it should go to the next votes within a certain time period and then go to the interview process.
So for the process we have right now, Mackenzie Murphy has sent her letter of resignation. She obviously has been on this committee for a number of years, but as it being perceived as a conflict of interest by the town attorney for her to be on town council and the budget committee, she has chosen to resign. And we appreciate all the time and the work that she has put in on this committee. I think our first piece of business is to accept the resignation, and then we can determine as a committee how we want to fill this spot this particular time. It seems like there might be times where there might be some more flexibility needed, but right now, we need to accept the resignation.
I motion that we accept the resignation.
Seconds?
We have Jen's motion on the table to adjust the policy.
So we need to vote on my motion.
Yep, my
before we
apologies.
can make a new motion.
Jen, would you like to restate your motion?
I motion that we add to our policies and procedures some instructions about how we fill a vacancy.
Okay, Pat has that. All right, all those in favor? All right. Any oppositions? I abstain. Chuck. And so the motion has passed. So then we need to create our policy on that.
No, I think we just voted that we were going to make.
We're just gonna, but if we're gonna add it, well, we're also, if we have a resignation, so we are going to have to fill it. So.
I have some comments on it.
Sure.
So, the resignation came in after the votes for the town election. And the reason why I oppose this on doing it to the next highest person is anybody can say, all right, I see that this person is next in line, so now I know that they have the same thoughts as me, and I can go ahead and resign. When at any time, they should have been resigning ahead of time to negate that. I hope I'm making sense. I just find that after an election, a person can look at the votes and decide, I feel comfortable leaving because the next person in line is with the same thoughts as me. And I think it should be up to the committee at that point to decide, and not the person who's resigning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does sort of seem like it circumvents the committee from being able to appoint, it circumvents our process of being able to, select who we think is the best person for the job. And it opens up for loopholes.
It's definitely a point I hadn't considered, that someone who might resign would do it as a result of what the election results were. I mean, this certainly is not the case that we're dealing with right now, but that could happen. Yeah.
I've
Marie?
two points to make. One, I fail to see why we would have a procedure that differs from all the other governing bodies in the town. I don't know why we would diverge from what has been a practice in all the other elected committees. And my second point is the resignation from the point of view of our work on this committee comes at a fairly opportune time, in that we have a good amount of time to fill that position before our work really begins. And so that, I think, gives us plenty of time to advertise, to receive letters of intent, and to have a meeting to interview people. So those are my 2 points.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I feel really strongly about being consistent with what other committees and boards are doing in town as well. I think that's a really important note.
Any other discussion before we close our discussion on this? And then we'll need to have a motion on the process that the committee would like to use. Because I don't believe we have a motion for that yet.
You do have a motion on
We have a motion that passed. Do we have a motion on the floor, Pat?
Dan moved to accept Mackenzie Murphy's resignation, and Caitlin seconded that.
I'll make the motion that we.
Wait, hang on, nope. If we have a motion on the floor, we have to hear that. So the motion on the floor is currently Mackenzie's resignation. So we need to vote on that to accept that first. So this is separate from how we're going to fill it. So all those in favor of accepting the resignation?
That's unanimous.
It is unanimous.
You would just. just be a vacant position, which is weird.
Yeah, I think Pat did mention there was one time where they just left it. Yep. All right, so as far as our policy regarding filling positions, that is where our discussion was.
Can I make a motion now?
Go ahead.
You absolutely can.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we advertise the position, that we accept letters of intent, we interview and elect a member to fill that slot.
Appoint.
Appoint, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you.
No, actually, you are electing them. You are electing them.
Yeah, okay.
The only one thought I have, and wait, sorry, first, does someone want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Brian. I also like that process, and I do think it's a good process, but what Pat brought up about the timing, like right now, we have the time to obviously post, to interview, and to fill. If we ran into a situation where it's January and we know how busy things are between liaison meetings and our meetings and running up against our deadlines, I'm wondering if having some flexibility with that, I don't know, just something I wanted to put out for thought, because I could see where it might be kind of time prohibitive for the committee to try to conduct all of that. Just something I wanted people to think about.
In January, though, you'd be even further removed from the election results in April.
Oh, to be clear, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that we would instead go to the election results. I'm just saying, my thought is, would you entertain a friendly amendment to include some sort of flexibility, so that if we have this written as policy and it says we will post, we will interview, we will conduct this, then we are held to that. But if we have some flexibility in there, it just might
Sort of like
prevent some situations that could cause trouble.
In case of contingency, a contingency clause, so to speak.
I think you could just add to the end or leave vacant. So then it would be at the discretion of the committee if they fill it with that policy or not.
May I offer something?
Absolutely.
In the past 3 years, actually, you'll notice that on the vacancy list, one of the things that the committee did for the last vacancy that you were interviewed for was determine the final process. And that's what it says on the vacancy list here. We're going to interview those who have submitted the letters of interest and then determine the final process, which was very clear if you watch the tape that it might be not fill the seat or fill the seat. But the committee determined the final process.
So I see Brian and
I would
Ashley.
also imagine that the person next in line that got the next most votes, if they were that interested in it, they would file a letter of intent. They would come here and go through the process. And if they were that viable of a candidate, then it would be an easy situation to move through.
It would certainly be a point of discussion for the committee as well, making your point, Dan, about almost circumventing the will of the voters. It would be something that would be discussed. Understood. Ashley?
I would say we could just put flexible timelines in the policy, like post the position for a minimum of a certain number of days, and then that way, if we're in January and we have a minimum of like 5 working days, then we can also say, and then schedule a meeting, have anybody who's applied come interview, and like decide that meeting whether we're going to fill with one of those, or if we're going to leave it vacant. And
So similar to what Pat had said, as far as, Pat, you said like determine the process after soliciting. Marie, would you be open to that?
I like what Pat said, because I think, January, we couldn't come up with a timeline that would be fast enough to get that position filled and be effectively a member of the committee. So I very much like what she said. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
I'd like to add another thought. The committee, I think the committee could also delegate to the chair to accept the resignation on behalf of the committee so that we wouldn't need to have a meeting to discuss and then another meeting to interview, and then, so we could expedite the process by the committee saying, if the committee chair receives the resignation and forwards it to the committee chair can receive that on behalf of the committee, and then we just
Actually,
move forward.
the clerk would accept it on behalf of the committee. And that's this,
So
because I'm the one that handles
Right now,
the
we have a
finance.
motion that Marie made that's on the table, so I just want to make sure, and Marie, you were open to the amendment that Pat gave. So I'm not losing track
Yeah.
of what you're saying, I just want to make sure that we're addressing this motion first.
Yeah, I'm not motioning another motion. I'm just saying we could expedite things
Okay.
by doing other things.
Ashley?
Another amendment, I would like to propose that we require a 2/3 majority vote in order to say that we're not going to fill the vacancy, just because, 12 is an even number, and I don't know if they're.
We could cover that under process to be determined, but right now it's Marie's
Okay.
motion, so unless Marie wants to further amend her amended motion.
I think the wording that Pat suggested would cover.
Marie, is your mic on?
I beg your pardon, it wasn't. I think the wording that Pat suggested to determine the final process is very broad and covers a lot of contingencies. And I'd like it to be clear and concise and not bogged down with a lot of extra scenarios.
It would be impossible for us to predict every scenario
Yeah,
that
it
could
would.
happen.
So your original motion, though,
Yeah,
outlined
was-
a process. Are you outlining
Right.
that process
Yeah,
and then
I can,
saying?
do you want me to say it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. That we would declare the, well, wait a minute. That we would.
Marie, do you want Pat to read? Pat's been recording. Do you want
Oh,
Pat to
Pat,
share?
you-
That might be easier.
Sure.
You said
sure.
And then you can tell her
advertise,
if it's-
accept letters of interest, interview candidates, and determine the process to fill the seat?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
And you made the motion and Brian seconded.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, then we will put it up for a vote. All those in favor? All right.
Okay, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9.
All right. Opposition?
1
And abstentions? Dan?
Dan.
All right, so we have accepted Mackenzie's resignation.
Yes.
We have voted to add the policy and procedures for us replacing or filling any vacancies that the committee has. So, Pat, you'll take care of posting the vacancy
Yes.
for us so that we will ask for letters of interest to be submitted. Then we just need to determine our next meeting date, correct?
Yes.
Because that's when we would do the interviews.
Jennifer asked me to confirm June 24th as a possibility.
June 24th. I have to check my calendar too, and it's in my phone.
At this time, this room is only available on Tuesdays, the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday. And that's, in January, we'll talk again about the Budget Committee meeting weekly, but right now, the Planning Board has this room, the 1st and 3rd.
I am away
Tuesdays.
June 24th.
Your vice chair could step in. for you.
The vice chair absolutely could. I'm just sharing that. I am away.
Well, then the other option is this, what'd you say, the 2nd and 4th, so June 10th? That probably doesn't give us much time to advertise and accept.
Yeah, I think
July 8th and July 22nd or the 29th. The 29th is the 5th Tuesday.
Oh, we get a 5th Tuesday.
We have a 5th Tuesday, twice
Alright.
this year coming up.
What was that, Brian?
I think that would be better, pushing it out a little bit. Give some people some time. I mean,
Sure.
if you post it, only giving a couple weeks for people to see it.
So which one are you picking?
The July 29th, I would say go the farthest one out.
Oh, all right.
That gives time, ample time for people to get letters in, for everybody that has any kind of intent to.
Yeah, because last year, we didn't even have our first meeting until October.
Yeah, and I think our next meeting, we will discuss some of the items that we talked about regarding policy and procedures that we wanted to review and revisit. And I know, Pat, there's some training as well that I know you and Matt had put together that would be helpful. So does July 29th work? At 6 p.m.?
It's already been motioned and approved.
It feels
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It
feels good to say.
Feels nice to say.
Yep. Do we need to officially vote on it? Pat, is that,
No.
no? Okay, great. Then consensus, July 29th, and yes, 6 p.m., because now that's what we voted on. Okay, then that will be our next meeting.
So we're not meeting June 24th.
Correct. So enjoy your June and the last few weeks of school. All right, any public comment?
Nice touch.
So I appreciate the committee following the best practices of the other elected bodies in town. I think that consistency is really important, especially expectations for the public and how all of the committees and boards function within our town. I think that's good. I just wanted to note one thing just for clarification as you move forward in your policy and procedures and in language. In the Budget Law 3215, subsection 7, where members at large are elected, vacancies shall be filled by appointment by the Budget Committee. Persons appointed to fill vacancies shall serve until the next annual meeting, at which time a successor shall be elected or appointed to either fill the unexpired term or start a new term, as the case may be. So I just wanted to clarify that you will be appointing someone for that vacancy, not electing them. I think that language is important for the public because they might think if they see that the Budget Committee on Agenda is electing a new member, that there's some kind of public vote happening there.
Thank you.
And just, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, any committee discussion?
Well, and I
or-
just wanted to be sure that I understood, and it sounded like it's a 1-year thing, and then it goes back up to
Yes,
public
so
vote the following
the
year.
vacancy is filled up
Cool.
until the next election.
Cool,
And
thanks.
then the remainder of that term, so whether it's 2 years or 1 year, is what Pat will post
Got it,
for.
okay. Thank you, Lori, for
Yeah.
helping us out.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the law itself is in municipalities where members at large are elected, vacancies shall be filled by appointment by the Budget Committee. Persons appointed to fill vacancies shall serve until the next annual meeting, at which time a successor shall be elected or appointed to either fill.
All right. Any other committee discussion? Do you want to do recognition, Dan?
Yeah.
You mentioned the Chop Shop team? I know they were recognized at the school board meeting.
They've been recognized, but I think everybody knows the Chop Shop team finished like 4th in the nation. I think we should recognize them. The Granite State kids won this again for the 3rd year in a row.
Yep.
So I think it reflects very well on our school district, and I just thought we should also recognize them. Too much recognition is not enough.
No, they should definitely be recognized for their work, and they did a terrific job. Certainly, our Granite State team has created quite the reputation. We are proud of them, and all the work that Chop Shop does too within the community is greatly appreciated. They do a lot of activities for children in STEM, which is really neat. My daughter's gotten a chance to go to some of their events and see what they do. So always appreciating seeing the children in our community kind of taking that leadership role and giving back. So thank you, Dan, for bringing that up. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion by Brian.
I second.
Seconded by Caitlin.
I beat you. I beat you this
All
time.
those in
You got it.
favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.